Hello and welcome everyone to our little presentation about what's new with the NiCE VMware Management Pack 5.7. Today, my colleague Mogove and I will give you a short overview what we have released with the last version of the NiCE VMware Management Pack. The release 5.7 was in the works for the whole year of 2023, and now in Q4 we are happy to announce it, and it's ready there, and we'll give you like a more detailed technical insight of what we have been releasing. So this is just one slide, and we drive this mainly via demos to show the functionality live. So first we'll actually have on this list additional VM Snapshot Monitoring. As you all know, snapshots are key because if you have snapshots laying around, they will consume system resources, they will make the system slow, and overall, you want to get rid of them. So, well, to give you a short demo on this, I will share my system. And just for a short recap, this is the NiCE VMware Management Pack. Basically, once it's set up, is added to the SCOM monitoring console, which is folder view. And in the folder view, we have the clusters, data centers, data stores, hosts, networks, VMs, and much more. So when we start, for example, from one data center here and look for a diagram view, we actually see the overview of the system with all the objects underneath. So we see the virtual machines, networks, data stores, hosts, and pools. And if we drill down, for example, on the virtual machines, you see the virtual machines here. So, and here there are some virtual machines that have an alert. And if I don't know which one, for example, have snapshots now, we can actually go to a state view here on the left side, scroll down to virtual machines. So the virtual machine snapshot state, and which lists all of the snapshots we currently have. So there is a challenge. We see this is a small development environment, so we have already 34 snapshots. So in a large environment, there might be hundreds or even thousands of snapshots. So in order to actually not discover all snapshots, but still be alerted of the snapshots, we added an additional monitor. The monitor is not part of the snapshot state or the snapshot object, which is discovered, but is part of the virtual machine. So for example, we have the virtual machine 1020H2ENT, and this virtual machine basically can be found here. This is the first one here, and we can actually just go and open this here and open the Health Explorer. And here we see actually already a monitor, and this monitor actually is about this virtual machine snapshot. This is a configuration category. Well, it has a snapshot, and we actually see it has exceeded the time that it should be around. Typically, snapshots should be there for 24 hours if you do a backup, or if you, for example, do a patching of a system, you take a snapshot and revert it after that. So that basically gives you the alert that the snapshot's being around for a longer time here. It also triggers an alert and gives you this alarm. It will be one monitor state change for all the different snapshots. So that means if there are more snapshots being added, this monitor will still stay critical. Only if the last one will have less than 24 hours, it will then actually give you a green state. So that's basically how the specific monitor works. There's been another one that's been added, so which has the number of snapshots. So it's also in the configuration area. So we have the total snapshot monitor that actually counts the number of snapshots. And we have a default threshold here, I think, of 2. So obviously can be configured via overrides. So you can change that. So we have this critical is actually 10, and there's a warning of 5. So if there are like 5 or more snapshots, we receive a warning. If there are 10 or more, then we have a critical alert for that specific system. To be honest, I have never seen a system with more than 10 snapshots, but if that's the case, you definitely want to have a look at it. All right, so that's about snapshots, but let me bring my colleague Gova on here. So we have one additional snapshot monitor, the snapshot size monitor. Maybe you just want to quick explain how that works.
Right. Okay. So the total snapshot size monitor actually goes into the data store and retrieves all the files associated with a VM. And what it does is it checks the size to see if it exceeds a threshold, and then it alerts. So basically, we have configured this monitor to alert us when the snapshot is actually consuming too much disk space, because otherwise you might end up running out of space on your data store, which is why we have this here.
You don't want to have that for sure. Thank you. Great. That's exactly what it does. And it is, again, the summary monitor. I think it covers those who do not discover the snapshots. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct because it targets the virtual machine level, which is more efficient because obviously if we are to monitor each and every individual snapshot, some companies might have thousands of snapshots, and it will consume a lot of resources just to do that.
Great, thank you. So that's about snapshot monitoring. All right, let's talk about the next item, which is about the sizing and documentation. We all know when you do a proof of concept or if you plan a new environment, you want to know, like, how do I need to size the management pack? And it is important actually that with the sizing, you understand how many VMs you have, how many ESX halls, how many cores, so you can get the sizing right. And that means the right number of SCOM servers to do the monitoring, the right number of licenses you need, and get basically a general overview of the environment. So for this, we actually have added tool sets actually, and we'll just go on the system and show you where they are. So right on here, we have these two tools. We have the estimate infrastructure and the retrieve WMI count. Important, the estimate infrastructure tool is this one here. So I'll just run this. And the estimate infrastructure tool allows you to add a virtual center. Okay, after we entered the password, it actually reaches out to the virtual center infrastructure and retrieves all the information. Like we have one data center, clusters, data stores. It's just a small environment, as you can see, with just 13 virtual machines. And at the same time, actually generates also like an Excel document, which is then stored. We did hide it somewhere, so it's right over here on the VMware Management Pack. And this is the document, actually, that is an XML document. So it is you can open it using the Microsoft Excel, but I will not do this. So you basically get the information here, so you can process it in an Excel document as well. And then there's the other tool that is also in the environment you can use. It basically does the retrieve WMI count. And this one actually reaches out to your WMI, but only will work right after the service has been started up. So this has a dependency that the service has been installed. It's really helpful to get like an overview, a quick overview of your inventory. It also is used here at NiCE for support purposes. All right, that was everything about the updated sizing tool. Now we get to the DRS rule violations, basically, and let's talk a bit about them first, and then I'll hand over the demo to my colleague, Mugove, to actually see what they do. So let me just pass on the screen sharing. You'll feel free to share your screen, Mugove. While he's doing that, in a cluster, basically, you typically have a number of virtual machines, and the virtual machines, like for example, if you have a application cluster, like a SQL Server cluster, like an always-on cluster. And the always-on cluster consists of two virtual machines residing on in a data center on VMware. So you want to make sure that the always-on nodes or the always-on virtual machines do not reside on the same ESXi system, because if the ESXi fails, obviously, then you lose your availability. So that's a really important rule, that you make sure that the two virtual machines of the always-on clusters reside on two different ESXi systems. So and for this, an affinity rule is created. And yes, Mugobe, maybe you can just go ahead and show us in vSphere where the affinity rules are and how they're configured.
Right. Okay. So to view the affinity rules, you'd have to click on the cluster, navigate into the configure tab, and then move scroll down to configuration and then VM host rules. As you can see here, we've created two rules, which are two master rules, which basically state that these VMs which belong to this group must reside on a host, right? So this rule is enabled. If we just click on the edit, we can see that it's a must run on rule type rather than a should run. So when it's a must rule, then it means that VMware DRS tries everything to ensure that the VMs are moved to the correct host. And if they fail to do so because of a conflicting or a rule violation, then it will generate a violation event, right? And because this rule, which is to keep VMs on ESX30 host, is violating this other rule, which is to keep the same VMs on ESX32, and it's not possible to have them on both at the same time. The events are generated, and we can see these events when we navigate to the monitor tab and scroll to events, and we'll see two alarms have been generated, which is this affinity rule violation. This VM, which we saw earlier, has changed its status from green to red. And this VM, core 21, is also conflicting. Right. And we can also check the DRS faults tab, and we'll see an alarm which is generated, which is stating the same. Right. We can also view the DRS score, and the DRS score, because of this, will show that these two VMs are quite unhealthy. They've got an 8% and a 1% score, respectively. Right.
Great. So I think we thank you for the explanation of the rules and the details. So we would basically now expect to see the same alerts in SCOM.
Correct.
This is what you can show us, right? Okay,
yes,
great.
Yes. So when we move into our SCOM environment, we can also see the same two rules. So the first one being this VM here, and is violating a DRS VM affinity rule. And the corresponding VM, which is core 21, is also violating a DRS VM host affinity rule. And so we have the two alerts in there. So yeah, so it works as because this is all event based. It's all event based. We're just monitoring the events that are coming in, and just placing this in the SCOM environment so that you have unified monitoring.
Great. Thank you very much, Mugobe. So with that, we actually change back to the overview. So that's all about affinity rules. We have more on clusters that we added, in this case around Linux mount points, that in some cases, if the VM moves from one ESXi host to another in terms of a vMotion action, then it loses sometimes its access path. So it has no access anymore to the mount points. So the mount points are lost. So, and that was also a request to monitor that. So that has been added here as well. Next to that, we have enhancement for usability, exception handling, documentation, and reliability. This is beside regular use of bug fixing. We have also added a lot of reliability and as well performance on that. As we know, you have a lot of objects always in the environment when you discover, so in the SCOM environment, when you discover virtual machines. So we want to make sure everything runs fast. Are there any specific items you want to highlight as well, Mugove, for this release in terms of usability, what you've had or exception handling within the collector or documentation at this point?
Yeah, sure. With regards to exception handling, there was a request from one customer, which was to create these unique IDs so that they can filter the events much better. So that they can say filter by an ID rather than having this all IDs grouped under one value, which makes it tricky sometimes to identify something. It's useful for troubleshooting. We've also reduced the memory consumption that the collector takes with some enhancements. So that when you're monitoring a large environment, the system will run more efficiently, and so it allows you to scale up better. The collector is also more robust, which allows us to. You don't want to be in a situation where you're missing an alert because the system is not responding adequately. And I think with the 5.7 release, we've managed to do so. Yeah, in terms of monitoring larger environments, scalability. In the environment we showed you there, we're actually monitoring at full capacity, even though it is indeed a small system. We're monitoring at level 6, which is all snapshots, everything. We discover all rules and monitors are running, and it was working well. Yeah, so I think with that, we also did upgrade the underlying SDK to support VMware 8. So we were using the latest SDK version, and you will notice that the collector is much faster in starting up and connecting to vCenter or an ESXi host. And I think the performance will be appreciated by some customers. And I think with that, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, great, Mugove. Thank you for the summary. You also mentioned already the latest support of ESXi 8 Update 1, which is included. And for those of you who listen in today here, they might wonder, like, how much is in there? Where do I get the details? There are right now over 50 different enhancements and fixes in this release, and all the details are in the release notes as usual. So I also believe this is a really great release. So thanks to the effort of the team working behind that, we brought this release to you. And if you have any feedback, as usual, feel free to send us an email. And thank you very much and enjoy.